Hey everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to Real Training Live. This is Coach James. You are in the right place. It is Wednesday. It's 1 o'clock here on the East Coast. That means it is noon for all of you guys in the Central Time Zone. It is 11 o'clock if you're in the Mountain Time Zone. And for all of my great West Coast fans and clients, it is 10 a.m. All right, so time for Real Training Live, guys. Excited because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. We're talking about the listing presentation today. So I want to do a quick little check here as I do each week to make sure we are good to go on the video feed here on my monitor, so I don't miss any comments, I don't miss any questions, anything that you guys have, because as you know, this is meant to be interactive, guys. Real Training Live is all about you. It's about interaction. It's about the opportunity to engage with questions, with comments. I want you guys, please, once you log on, once you're live with me, and if you're watching this as a rebroadcast, you know what, go ahead and let me know where you're coming in from, what marketplace you're in. Let me know what your challenges and questions might be with regard to listing presentation, because we're going to be talking about this, guys, for probably the next at least 3 weeks. Because this is one of those topics that I don't like to just rush through. All right, I want to make sure that I take my time, that we really go through in detail all the little facets about the listing presentation, because this is it, man. This is the culmination of everything that we are typically working toward as real estate professionals. So once again, I just want to remind you guys, all right, every single time that I step in front of the camera, every time that I want to come to you guys and start talking to you about a topic, I've got two things in mind. I've got two things going through my head as a coach, as a trainer, and that is, number one, I want to give you something. I want to give you tools. I want to give you scripts. I want to give you information. I want to give you systems that I know work, okay, that you guys can implement and make something happen in your business. But you know, the other thing that needs to go with that I try to give you is the motivation, okay? I try to reach through the camera and just give you a little nugget of enthusiasm, of energy to actually do something with what we're going to talk about today, all right? Because you know what? For a lot of you guys, you are steeped in training. I mean, you guys have access to so much now. When I first started doing coaching and training 20 years ago, I mean, this didn't exist. Okay, you wanted to go get information, you had to sign up for a seminar and you had to show up at your local, hotel or whatever to go get the info. Now, there's so much available. But here's the deal. My goal is for you to do something with it, all right? Knowledge without action doesn't accomplish anything, guys, okay? So if there's one thing that I would love to see in the comments below as we go through today and as we wrap up is, what are you doing with this? Okay, so for example, last week we talked about pre-qualifying. All right, pre-qualifying, it's the setting of the stage. All right, pre-qualifying is that process that you guys have to go through if you're going to have some success as listing agents, because you don't want to waste your time. We talked last week so much about the value of your time. You guys are professionals. You guys have lots of opportunities. And the last thing you want to do is waste your time talking to somebody that has no interest in actually moving. Okay? So if that's ever happened to you, it's okay. You can raise your hand. If we were in an audience right now, I'd say, hey, how many of you guys have ever been on a listing appointment that about 15 minutes in, you wanted to excuse yourself from? You wanted to just get up and run as fast as you could. We've all been there. All right, so pre-qualifying, as we talked about last week, is designed to prevent that as much as possible. All right, so if for some reason you guys have not watched that episode of Real Training Live, go back in the archives right here at my business page. You can see that broadcast still there. All right, so what have we got? We got about 4 or 5 minutes after the hour. We're going to jump in today to the listing presentation. Now, again, as I have said so many times if you're working with me one-on-one, I've said this to you a lot. If you've been a part of any of these training events over the years, I've said this to you a lot. And that is, there is a mindset component to every single thing that we do in real estate, okay? There is an element of our success that is contingent on having the right thinking, guys, okay? I remember reading a book back in, it was probably the early 2000s, and it was called Power Thoughts, okay? Those of you the guys that are looking to add to your reading list for this year, it's not a real easy book to find, but write down Power Thoughts by Robert Schuller. one of the things that he said in that book that has stuck with me for a long time is he said, how we feel determines how we think. How we think determines how we act determines our results. Okay? So immediately I started to see the connection, man. I started to see this chain, these links, if you will, right? That stem from our emotional state, our mental state, our thought life into our results. So before we just jump in, okay, before I just grab the listing presentation script and say, okay, you knock on the door and you introduce yourself and you thank them for having you over, before we get into all that, I want to make sure that you guys are completely on board right up here with what your thought life should be as a listing professional, okay? Because again, like I said a few minutes ago, man, this is the culmination. This is what we work for. All the lead generation systems, all of our hard work and lead follow-up, all the time and effort we put into pre-qualifying is for this moment, okay? It's been said that this is like showtime, right? When you get in front of a motivated seller and you're there to sell them on why you are the best option in your marketplace to get their home sold. Okay? So a lot of work goes into this. We don't want to blow it. So I want to just go through for a couple minutes. I want to share with you some of the, I guess what I would call common thoughts that I think you need to have. I know some of the top listing professionals that I get the chance to work with week in and week out. I know this is how they think. Okay? And so in so many instances, we go back to the idea that success leaves clues, right? There's a blueprint, right? There's already a proven approach to improving your listings. Do you guys remember last week I said to you, look, imagine if you had, let's say 100 opportunities in 2018 to go list property, and you got the contract signed 50 times. Okay, 50% of the time you got a contract signed. Then imagine you go on those same 100 appointments, but instead you get 70 out of 100 signed. Think about the additional income, okay? Think about the additional, number of properties that you get to sell. That's what this is about. All right, so I'm going to grab my notes here because I don't want to forget any of these mindset thoughts that I wrote down that I want to set the stage for, okay? First of all, you got to understand that listing property, okay, making a great listing presentation is a skill, okay? It is a skill, which means two things. Number one, it can be learned. Okay? There is no such thing as a born presenter. Now, there are people, okay, whose natural giftings, their natural personality makes them good communicators. Okay? But being a good communicator by itself doesn't automatically mean you're going to be a great presenter. Okay? Because presenting is selling. Selling is not telling. Okay, guys? We're in a teaching environment right now, okay? And I appreciate you guys. Alex, I appreciate the comments, man. Albert, I see you on board there. So as you guys check in, like I said, let me know where you're calling from. Let me know what I can help you with. Please share it. Okay, let's get the share button clicking away. Let's get the likes going. But like I said, presenting is selling. Presenting is creating an environment where you are engaging somebody who has a need and you're showing them how you can best fulfill that need. Okay? So it isn't about, like again, right now, what we're doing right now, this is mostly one-way communication, okay? This is mainly me sharing thoughts, me sharing information. When you're selling, when you're presenting, guys, it's question-based, okay? So I think for a lot of us, what we need to do is, in fact, I remember, this is probably, again, 15 years ago, I remember there was a period of time where I started calling it the listing interview instead of the listing presentation. Because the problem I noticed for so many agents is they were looking at it as just that. Like they had to go in and talk for like 30 minutes nonstop as they were, flipping through their little chart, their little book, or zipping through their, their slideshow or whatever. And I wanted agents to get out of the idea of thinking that this was all one way. Okay, this is two-way dialogue. You should be asking twice as many questions as you probably are right now. Okay, to become an even stronger presenter. So where am I going with all this? You guys are thinking, okay, James, that's great, but what does all that mean for me? What it means is there's a learning curve, okay? For every one of us, myself included, I'm always trying to figure out how do I become a better presenter? How do I better communicate information in a way that gets you to do something with it, right? You guys have to figure out, as I go in and sit down with somebody to talk to them about selling their home, what can I do? What is important to them that I can touch on and get them excited about and make them want to take action in the form of signing my listing agreement. Okay, does that make sense, guys? I hope that does. So again, it's a skill, which means it can be learned, but it also means you've got to commit to practicing. Okay? I can't think of a single professional that would ever call themselves a professional if they didn't practice. Okay? So that was the first thought I wrote down in terms of a mindset, is you gotta adopt the attitude that I'm never going to think I got there. I am going to continually commit to practicing how to become a better presenter. All right? The other thing we need to buy into, if we don't already have this thought, is that the qualifying process, like we talked about last week, is pivotal to getting a higher percentage of people to sign with you. Okay, bottom line, yes, you can become a better presenter. You can become a better communicator. You can become more compelling. You can ask better questions. You can close harder. But if you aren't sitting across the table from somebody who needs what you have to offer, it doesn't matter how good you are. Okay? I use the example a lot about if you're a restaurant owner. Okay? Let's say that you were a restaurant owner in your town, your city, and you've hired the best chefs money can buy. And you had the premium location, man. I mean, you had it going on. And you stood out in front of your restaurant, and as people walked down the sidewalk, you were saying, hey, come on in. Tonight we have, these incredible dishes that are at incredible prices, and the smells were coming out into the sidewalk and out into the street in front of the restaurant, and people could tell that you had something great to offer. The only problem was they just ate, okay? They just finished a big meal. Doesn't matter how great the presentation is, man. Doesn't matter how great the food is. Doesn't matter how good the prices are. They're not coming in, okay? So mindset-wise, A, we need to treat this as a skill. B, we need to buy into the idea pre-qualifying is critical. Okay? The next thing I wrote down is that, you know what? Even in this marketplace, price is still 90% of the marketing that you're going to do on a property. Okay? Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to talk about this probably in the weeks to come when it comes to dialogue, okay? And as far as like what you actually say to the seller, I have always been a big fan of blunt honesty. Okay, now that doesn't mean that you're going to be crude. It doesn't mean that you're going to be obnoxious, but it means you're going to tell the truth, and you're going to let these people know right up front. Hey, I'm not going to just sugarcoat what I have to say to you. Okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm assuming that's what you're looking for. One of the things that sellers will often ask is, "What are you going to do to get my home sold?" Okay, what does your marketing plan look like? Okay, what can we expect from you if we're going to hire you as our agent? And one of the things that I have often told agents to say, and some of them have done this, is to say, look, 90% of what I'm going to do to get your home sold is going to happen in the next 5 minutes when you and I discuss the right price for your property. Okay? Because that's the truth. If we price it right, perfect. I can remember, this is back in, again, early 90s. I was working at the time with a guy named Carlos Justo in Miami Beach. Okay? Now, Miami Beach is a high-end market, okay? Some of you might be from that area. But the reality was some of this guy's clients were people like Madonna, Sylvester Stallone, Pat Riley, the coach at the time for the Miami Heat, many professional athletes, and of course, the doctors, the attorneys, whatever. I mean, he was dealing in $2, $3, $5, $8 million properties on a regular basis, okay? And I remember one time going on an appointment, and we were talking to the seller. He was a very well-known, very successful eye surgeon, okay? And he had this property that had expired, and he was going to put it back in the market. And we were having this conversation about price, okay? And I don't remember exactly what the price was the guy wanted, but I know it was too high. And I remember Carlos turning to him and saying, listen, I want you to understand something. When it comes to getting property sold, I earn a lot of income, but I'm not afraid to spend it to do what I have to do to get the results for my seller. So if need be, I could hire a television crew to come into your house, Mr. Seller, and we could film a full 1 to 2 minute commercial that I would then air on every single television station in the city of Miami. And I would publish this in any journal or any magazine you wanted, and the only thing we would do at that price is tell the entire world that I had an overpriced listing. That's all I would do. So the reality is, it doesn't matter how much I spend on marketing. It doesn't matter how much exposure we get. If the price isn't right, it's not selling. Now, I'm not saying you have to go through that whole song and dance every time you're having a discussion on price. What I want you to buy into up here is that you need to commit in 2018 to not taking overpriced listings unless, okay, now here's the caveat, unless they are highly motivated, in which case you're going to set the stage and prep them for a price adjustment down the road. Okay? But this whole strategy of just going out and taking any listing at any price, I'm sorry guys, I can't stand here and tell you that that's what you should do. I do realize the market is expanding and prices are still, in flux, but the reality is pricing is still the key to getting homes sold. All right? So you need to remember that. You need to think about that. The next mindset thought, now this is an interesting one, okay? And I remember so many times I've been at, in a live event, right? I've been up on a stage, I've had an audience in front of me, and I've said what I'm about to say next. And I've had so many people immediately raise their hand and be like, "Can you repeat that? Did you just say what I thought you said?" And I'll say, "Yes, this is what I said." And here's what I said. It's really not that big a deal, but I said, look it, you need to be willing every single time to walk away from a listing. Okay? You need to be willing to walk away from a listing every single time, if necessary, that you walk into a property. Now, here we are talking about how do we get more listings, and yet I'm saying to you, you got to be willing to walk away. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is we can't be so attached to the outcome, and we need to think in advance of what our terms are going to be to take that listing. Okay? Remember, you're the professional. You're the person that gets the job done. It's your business. You guys have to decide that you're going to take control of that. And if it means saying to a seller, you know what, the truth is, I just can't help you. I mean, based on what you're looking for, based on your expectations, I have to apologize because I can't help you. So I wish you all the best. If you change your mind, please feel free to contact me. And you get up and leave. Okay? And I've had agents do that, and I would honestly say probably 70 to 80% of the time, the seller will actually say, well, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, they're like, well, come back. What do you mean you're going to leave? Okay? I mean, there are sellers and there are motivated sellers. And we want, assuming that you're sitting in front of a motivated seller, we want to let them know that you are going to do your job, you're going to do certain things, but you're not dying for their listing. You're not attached to the listing. That is a mindset, okay? That is a mindset, and they can tell right away whether or not you want the listing more than they want to give it to you, okay? So you got to be willing, and you got to have your walkaway terms and your price and all those things figured out in advance. If they ask me to cut my commission below this point, I'm not doing it. If they ask me to price this property above this point, I'm not doing it. Now, I will tell you that the more you prospect, the more you lead generate, the more appointments you can set up for yourself, the stronger this becomes. Because see, an agent who doesn't prospect or lead generate or have a lot of options can't afford to have these standards we're talking about right here. So I'm assuming as I'm talking to you right now that you are somebody who is willing to put yourself in a position where you actually have the option of doing what I just said. Because I know a lot of agents who, they might go on an appointment every 3 months if they're lucky. And they're thinking, there's no way I'm taking this listing. I don't care what price I have to get it at or what commission I have to agree to. I want and I need a listing. Guys, I hope that's not you. I don't ever want somebody that I'm working with to be in a place where they are so desperate for a listing that they're willing to take it at any price. Okay? So guys, is this making sense? If it is, again, please feel free to give me the like, give me the share, comments, questions below. All right, let me know what else you need me to talk about with you here today. All right, I've got 2 more thoughts that I want to go through with you as far as the mindset. Okay, again, remember what we're doing here, guys. We are setting the stage for the conversation that we are going to have in the next couple of weeks as we keep going through this series. All right, there are a lot of things that I'm going to perhaps suggest to you, or they're going to come up in a script in the next few weeks, that if we didn't have this conversation today, you'd be thinking to yourself, where's this coming from? Like, why are you saying that? Okay? But what we're doing here today is we're prepping the mind. We're getting you ready to become the kind of listing professional that I think most of you want to become. All right? So I wrote down this thought, and I believe it. I have seen it even so far in the first 10 days of 2018. And that is that 90% of your stress will come from 5% of your sellers. Okay? 90% of your stress comes from 5% of your sellers. Now, why are we talking about that? What does that mean? Well, the reality is it's awesome to be in a position where you can actually go through and release sellers if you need to. Because I talk to agents all the time. I've had 2 or 3 conversations already this year with my coaching clients where we're talking about these sellers who frankly don't need to sell. They have no business being on the market. And yet, for whatever reason, they've tricked the agent into getting the listing, or the agent has thought, well, I can sell them on pricing it right, or I can sell them on doing this or doing that. The truth of the matter is, guys, most of the time, your highest level of stress comes from just a few sellers. So I want you to, again, have the attitude that you are going to pick and choose your inventory, okay? You are going to set the standard for what you want to represent in terms of sellers, okay? And then finally, I guess the last thing that I wrote down is that you need to communicate the fact that this is a 2-way relationship, okay? Now think about what I'm saying. It's a 2-way relationship. So many times we encounter people who say things like, look, I'm hiring you to do a job. This is what I expect. This is what I need, you to do. And this is what I'm expecting you to do. But guys, hey, let's think about this. This is a business transaction. This is a business relationship. We need to have expectations of our clients, right or wrong. Okay? Would you guys agree with that? That we need to be willing to share our expectations of what it takes to be one of your clients. Okay? So, for example, it means that they're willing to communicate with you when you need them to. It means they're going to be willing, if necessary in some cases, to maybe take a little bit of time off to accommodate certain things that are going to come up during the course of the deal. Okay? So my point is, and I'm not going to get into all this today, my point is at the end of your presentation, once you've signed the contract, one of the things that I would suggest you do is hand them a list of expectations. Okay? And just share this with them and prep them for what to expect going forward. That, hey, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to represent you. Obviously we've talked a lot about what I'm going to do for you. We've talked a lot about the things that you can expect of me as your agent. What I want to do is let you know there are certain things that I need from you as my client to really help this work. And you give it to them. Excuse me, you give them your expectations list. Okay, so we're getting a little bit ahead of things right there. But if you go back and you actually look at, and I hope you took some notes on this, all right? If you look at these 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever mindset ideas that I gave you today, all right? I want you to see how they create an environment, they create a system, they create a way of thinking when it comes to listing property that is going to put you in a lot more control, okay? One of the things I remember, now this goes back again to probably 1999 maybe, 2000. In fact, I was just talking with this guy this morning, okay? This is a guy that I coached literally about almost 20 years ago, and I'm still working with him today. He's in San Antonio, and one of the things that I remember is that he started off as a hardcore prospector. Okay, you guys will love this. You'll appreciate this. I mean, he would prospect faithfully 4 hours every single morning. Okay, and it didn't take him long to build up a big listing inventory, and he was fairly new in the business. But in 1999, I believe it was, maybe it was 2000, he broke into the top 50 real estate agents in all of the city of San Antonio. Okay, and we're talking, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 to 10,000 agents, somewhere in that neighborhood. So anyway, he was in the top 50. And one of the things that he would always share with me, and he would come out on the road with me sometimes to different events and different seminars that I was doing as a panelist. And he would talk about how on the weekends, he would get phone calls all the time from agents who were in the top 10, wanting to show his listings. Okay, because at the time he had like a 5 or 6 year old son. He was a single dad. He didn't want to work weekends, and he set up his business and he set up his life so that he could have basically every evening and most every weekend off to be with his son. And he was saying how, again, these agents who were, bigger producers, selling more homes, making more money, but they were always coming to him for the inventory. And he would be at the beach, or he'd be at home, or he'd be doing something with his son, and they'd be out showing his listings and making him money on the weekends while he was taking time off. So again, everything we've talked about here today, guys, in terms of the mindset of a top listing professional is designed for one thing, okay? It's designed to help you have more control of your business and of your life, okay? Because the more often that you compromise your standards or you refuse to put a standard in place, the more often things are going to fall apart. All right. So once again, if you have questions, please hit me up with some comments, hit me up with some likes, hit me up with some, shares. And for any of you, in fact, let me just scroll down real quickly. I want to make sure I have not missed anything. Anything that you guys are struggling with or working on in terms of becoming a listing agent for 2018, a better listing agent, I want you to put that below. All right, let me know what you need help with and what questions you have. But again, today is all about prepping you for the conversation that we're going to have when you get inside the house. All right, so just a couple other things I had written down. We talked about, again, the pre-qualifying and how important that was. But I want to draw your attention to a couple other things. One thing in particular, really, that I think is going to set you apart. It is going to set you up for a much higher level of success. So again, how many of you want to list a higher percentage of properties in 2018? Okay, I'm assuming that your hands are up. I'm assuming that I will get a few thumbs up and likes on that. But here's what I'm going to have you write down. Write down pre-listing routine. Okay, pre-listing or pre-listing presentation routine. This, again, is a preparatory for getting more contracts signed, okay? So how many of you guys have ever gone to a professional sporting event? Or maybe you've watched some sort of a professional sporting event on TV where you've seen the athletes before they have to go on the field or before they go out to do whatever it is they do. One of my favorite ones, actually, to illustrate this point is if you ever watch in the Olympics, you ever watch the figure skating or the gymnastics competitions. And a lot of times the camera will kind of like just pan off to the side or they'll pan into, behind the stage or whatever, where the skaters or the gymnasts are warming up and they're prepping for their routine. And you watch them and their eyes are closed and they are doing all these body movements and they're turning and spinning. And you know what they're doing, guys? That's their pre-performance routine. And what they're doing is they are visualizing the perfect performance. Okay? They're visualizing, they're imagining, they're going through in their mind the perfect performance. Because what they anchor up here will work its way out in their actions. Okay? Tiger Woods. Now, Tiger Woods is not where he was 10 years ago in the golf world. Okay? But I remember listening to an interview with him. I think it was an interview, it might have been in his book. But he would talk about how the night before he would play a round of golf, he would go through the entire course in his head at least one time. He would visually, in his mind, play the entire golf course that he was going to have to play for real the next day. Okay? And again, just an example, as you, Alex, appreciate that, drilling and rehearsing. That's exactly what we're talking about. So my question is, do you have one? Okay? Do you have a pre-presentation routine that you go through? So for example, it might be at the office before you leave to go to the appointment. It might be in the car on your way to the presentation. Now, I will have to caution you, okay? My attorney, company wouldn't like it if I'm, suggesting that you're driving down the road on your way to an appointment with your eyes closed, going through your presentation. That's probably not the safest thing to do. All right, but my point is you can be doing any number of things to get yourself prepped for the perfect performance. Again, that's what this is, guys. Can you imagine going into a property and delivering such an incredible presentation and communicating so strongly that at the end of your presentation, the property owners actually stand up and give you a standing ovation? Can you imagine that? Would that be incredible or what? Now, I'm not suggesting we get corny about this. What I'm saying is you need to look at it for what it is. This is a moment. This is a period of time that you are going to be engaging in the epitome of what we do as real estate salespeople, with the goal being we want these people to choose us. We want these people to believe that we are the best choice. So here's some examples of what we might call a pre-listing presentation routine. Okay, what I have had a lot of clients do and works really well is they will record what they call their perfect presentation. Okay, so they'll hook up a recording device. They'll use their phone, they'll use whatever, and they'll go through their presentation, and they'll record themselves, and then they listen back to that. Okay, so they will replay that so that again the thoughts are going in their head, right? A lot of times, one of the things that works well is to visualize and imagine the perfect outcome of the presentation. Okay, Judy, great to have you on board. Thanks for being a part of the class today. So visualizing and imagining the outcome in terms of the sellers choosing you, the seller saying, yes, we want to hire you. All right. Another thing is affirmations, or really what I like to call them are declarations of why you're the best agent for the job. Okay. I have had a lot of agents, especially newer agents. I notice this with newer agents where they start to question why somebody would choose them. Okay. Typically what happens is I'll take an agent, they will start to get out there and prospect. They'll start to get out there and lead generate. They'll start having more opportunities. They'll get more chances to go and present. And what happens is they start to bump heads with some of the other bigger agents in the marketplace. And they start to maybe lose a listing or two. And, the seller will say, well, we liked what you had to say, but, we wanted to go with so-and-so because they've sold a lot more homes than you, or they've sold a lot more properties in your area, or they have a bigger team or whatever. And so a lot of times that gets into our head, right? And we start thinking about, well, man, yeah, why is somebody going to choose me when there's all these other agents out there that sell more homes and do more than I do and whatever? Well, see, again, guys, it's mindset. Okay, it's about believability. So if you can create a list of all the things that you bring to the table, all right, I would definitely encourage you to sit down, think about everything you have to offer. Think about what makes you who you are, what you have done, what your company does to support you if you're a little bit newer, and create a list. Okay, so here's the 5 reasons or the 7 reasons or whatever why a seller should choose me to list their property. And then you need to repeat and you need to go through those and you need to ingrain and own those things. Because what will happen, guys, is your believability index, so to speak, goes up. Okay? Your belief factor goes up, and because you believe it more strongly, because your confidence level is higher, you are going to perform at a stronger level. Okay? So those are a few examples of what you might choose to do as a part of your pre-listing presentation routine. Okay? Go through and practice your presentation. Remind yourself of all the reasons why you deserve the job. Okay? And I think also to work on closes. Guys, it's not rocket science. We know what people are going to say to us, right? We know the objections. We know the responses that a lot of sellers are going to say to you. We want to think it over. Well, we want to talk to so-and-so. We said we'd we'd hear what they had to say as well. We want to interview somebody else. Or, well, we're not really sure. I think we'd like to list it for more money. Okay? There's a variety of these things that you guys have heard, that you're going to hear again. So because you're going to hear them, why not practice them? Okay? Why not on the way to your presentation go over exactly what you want to say when the seller says to you, we want to think it over. Okay? So that you're ready. Again, just like rehearsing, just like warming up before a sporting event, these athletes, these performers go through their performance. Okay? You guys have an opportunity to go out and do something at a high level. Okay? A major high level in 2018. The marketplace deserves agents like you. Okay? Now think about it. If you've said to yourself, if you're one of my clients and you've shared with me and you said, look, I want to take, X number of more listings this year. That means you have to have at least that many more times in front of homeowners. Okay? So why not arrive at those moments fully prepared, fully practiced, fully confident, fully engaged, fully excited, fully focused on what you want for yourself and for your business? Okay? So again, you've got a list now. Again, I don't even know how many, I'm going to guess 8 or 10 things. I'd have to add them up. Okay? As far as all the reasons, I guess there's probably about 8 or 9 things here. Okay, that we've covered today that are all up here. We haven't even gotten to the front door yet. What I'm trying to do is get you so ready to show up at that front door that it's like, bang, man, you're gonna hit the scene like a professional, okay? Powerful, confident, practiced, ready to get the job done. As opposed to, the typical agent that screeches into the driveway 10 minutes late, is completely disheveled, papers falling all over the place, and, of course, unpracticed, okay? You guys know it. Man, you'd be surprised, but I think you know what you're up against out there. And most of it, let's be honest, man, it's not professional. Okay? You guys have such an opportunity to stand out and do something, like I said, amazing with your business and with your life. Okay? So again, questions, guys. Any comments, questions? What are we at here? About 135 or so, something like that. Next week, by the way, we are going to start right off the bat with the front door. Okay, I mean, it's like you're there now. Okay, and we're going to get into what we should be doing and what some of the top agents are doing when they first walk into the property to get people's attention, to get them excited, to sort of prep them for signing up. And we're going to move on over the next few weeks, all the way through that dialogue and through that conversation, up to the point where we're closing, we're handling objections, and we're setting the stage for what it means to be a client of yours. Okay, so again, if there's no other questions, no other comments, frankly, I don't want to keep you any longer than we have to because I know you got listings to go get. So next week, be ready. Again, share this. All right, would you guys do me that favor? Would you kind of get the word out? Share this with other agents you know. Share it on your page as a part of the training that you're participating in. Excuse me. And again, any other questions after the fact, you know how to get a hold of me. So guys, thank you for today. All right, this is Real Training Live, Coach James. I'm excited to watch what you guys are going to go do in 2018. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Bye-bye.